case of, now I'm going to be annoyed with you because you haven't done things strategically. So I think there's more work for us to do in this area. I think we did do some good things, and then we undid them later with these battleground mechanics. And to the advantage, the battleground mechanics are at least more knowable. Like once you understand that when the tributes spawn, drop what you're doing and go for the tribute, right? I don't care how close you are to killing that tower. The tribute, right? We're gonna have a team fight right now, and now is the time to go. And that's not that hard to teach. So my hope is that we're still in a happier place in that respect, but I don't think we've solved that. I don't think we've come across on that. And so we're gonna be looking at going forward what we can do. I do feel like having played for our game, much like WoW, the happiest place is when you're playing with people you know. And I think if we can create the social systems that allow that, we'll be much better off. One of the things we are doing is, I don't know if we are doing this, but we're certainly planning on doing this, is giving you bonus rewards. If we have, a gold mechanic or whatever we have for the free-to-play model, giving you bonus for playing with your friends, for playing with people you know. So that even if you just go out and find somebody in a chat channel, right, and go, dude, can we be friends? And he goes, okay, right? And then you guys join up. Now you have an investment in this person. Like, well, I don't want to make this guy really mad, right? Because I want to play with him again. I don't want to go back to the chat channel and, hey, man, want to be my friend so I can get the bonus, right? Like, we're trying to do everything we can to help you create relationships, because I think that's what the game is absolutely at its strongest. And I think WoW, if you look at WoW over the years, it's done this better and worse. I think they've, still got room to improve. But for me, in my experience at least, it's been largely very positive, playing within a guild, working with my buddies, having relationships. The early days of WoW were glorious in this respect, right? In vanilla, where this is my server, and I have a reputation on this server, and like, oh, hi, you want a buff? I'm cool. Let me in your group later, right? And that was sort of, the tone with it, right? And I love what they've done in terms of getting everybody into the environment now. We've got, cross, realm grouping and all that stuff. So I can play dungeons, which is really cool. At the same time, I've lost some of my investment, right, in just being sweet to everybody all the time. And so I think if we can create an environment where you're like, no, I really want people to be okay with me, because I'm gonna get something for that. Right, so that's our philosophy, but I don't have a specific feature list for you, which I know kind of what your question was, but I don't have a specific feature list at this point to tell you how we're going to solve it. We need to get to a place where we've got a big community, really, too, to kind of see where the fracture lines for this game are and try to deal with it. But I totally agree, it's a very high value for us. It's something we really want to try to fix. Cool. Yes, sir. Here's the next thing.
In sort of that space, you talked a little bit about like not being able to feed and things like that. Can you talk to me a little bit about the design philosophy for shared XP and for, I know that like the micro blast hitting and things isn't there. How, as a player, do I distinguish myself as a good player versus the other players on my team?
How do I humiliate my allies? Yeah. So listen, let me say something before I go on. So I'm going to say things as we go through, right? I'm going to be comparing us to other games, right? And it's going to sound like maybe I'm going to forget, and it's going to sound like I'm crapping on these other games. I'm not. Okay, these other games, that our fans have created, that have gone on to be major games like League of Legends, games like Dota 2, these are amazing games. These guys do great work. We are inspired by the work these guys do. This is awesome. And many of these guys who are making these games now that are these mainstream multi-bazillion-dollar games actually were mod makers in our Warcraft 3 community. Right. So these guys are great. They're doing awesome stuff. And we all play these games. I went on a total Dota 2 binge a couple of months ago, and I couldn't stop playing, right? We all play League of Legends. Dawngate actually looks really cool. We've been playing that in the office, and it's really nice. And that kind of, for us, came out of left field. We didn't know that was coming. So I'm going to be comparing us to the game. I'm just saying, last hitting isn't what we want. It doesn't mean it's not right for other games, right? It doesn't mean that it's not cool. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work and that it's not an awesome experience, for those games. But we do have a different take. We have a different set of philosophies that work, we think, for this game. Anyway, so I just wanted to get that on the table so it's not, all this guy's doing is crapping on everybody else's cool stuff, because they're doing cool stuff, right? So for us, one of the things we really wanted to do, and I guess I'll take you through how we kind of got there, because it's kind of interesting. We made this hero called Abathur, and this was this idea of a commander hero. And this would be somebody who could jump all over the battlefield. What he can do is he can infest friendly allies, and then he's sort of riding piggyback inside them, and he can cast skill shots and put shields on this ally, and so, but he can't fight at all. Like he's just, like he's pathetic. Like I saw the funniest fight with him the other day against Illidan, where Illidan got into a bad position. Illidan has this ability to leap across the battlefield and hit somebody really hard. And you actually hear, "You are not prepared," and you're like, "Oh!" And he'll just jump on you and trash you. And he can move very, very quickly, and he's targeting usually somebody who's kind of low on health, maybe an assassin class who's kind of gotten a little bit too low on health. And sometimes Illidan will do this. He'll dive on a hero, and he'll kill like a Diablo demon hunter. And suddenly all of the other heroes on the demon hunter's team will go, "Really, Illidan?" Just close around, like, "We're right here, dude." And they'll just put him down, right? But sometimes Illidan will catch someone in that position, right? And he'll get the kill, and then he'll kind of sneak off like a ninja. I'm getting to your question. I know. I'll get there. So Illidan gets to this position, this game I watched, this replay watching, where he's behind enemy lines, and the hero he was killing was running for home base and almost made it. So he's way behind enemy lines at this point. And so and there's an undestroyed fortress right there, and he's like, "I can't go that. I'm going to port home." Right? So he starts to port home. And Abathur is there, and Abathur's always hiding in his own base, right? So Abathur is there, and he looks over to Illidan, and Illidan's got the sliver of life, and Abathur's like, "Oh, I'm going for it," right? And so Abathur goes over, and he starts kind of pathetically pawing at Illidan, and Illidan's like, and he starts hitting him with the glaives, and I'm watching this fight. I'm like, well, this is no contest. Illidan's health is a sliver, right? And Illidan goes, and Abathur's health goes, he's gonna lose. Like, he can't even kill someone with a sliver of health, and Illidan's and Abathur's jazz hand him, "Oh, I can do it," right? And he the sliver, and then he hits him again, and he takes Abathur down the sliver, like, "Oh, this is so funny." And Abathur finally manages, and he drops him, and Illidan goes down. It's like the second kill Abathur's ever had with his hands, right? So this is a hero that we think is really, really fun, and he's very strange, and he's very different, and hopefully you haven't played anything too much like him before. How does he earn? Right? How does he get experience points, right? So when we actually put him in at first, we actually had individual leveling in the whole thing. And so we had to make a special rule for Abathur. And we're like, well, Abathur matches the highest hero on his team. All right, we'll do that, right? That'll be cool. That'll work, right? And so we put that in, and we just let it go, and it kind of worked. It was a weird rule. Like, it was this weird tooltip you could mouse over and see it. And that sort of inspired us after a while, because we were starting to struggle with our support heroes as well. We'd have a hero like Uther, and if Uther was ever alone, he's like, "Dude, go find a friend, man. You can't earn. Yeah. You can't keep up in the levels. You're gonna get driven out of lane. You're gonna get killed. You're no good." And so we started DPSing up our support heroes and eroding their healing a bit, because their DPS is getting better. We can't have the guy who's like, "Oh, I can kill everyone, and I'm an amazing healer," right? Like, wow, like this was really broken. And so it started to erode a lot of these values. So now we got this one hero that's got this weird rule, and a lot of our support classes and even our siege heroes are starting to become more and more assassin-y, right? As we're trying to allow them to earn. And so we thought, what if we just, what if we did team experience points? And there was a lot of people, you can't do that. That's not okay. That's not how this genre works. I have played this genre, and I know, right? And that was some sensibilities that we heard. And we're like, yeah, but what's our core value for this game? And one of the core values we had for the game was, you're gonna play it as a team. It's a little socialist, right? Like, you're gonna play as a team, and you're gonna win and lose as a group. That was gonna be one of our values. And we're like, okay, well, this matches our values. Let's give it a go. And so we put it in, and then we started finding all kinds of things we liked about it, right? We liked, I'm not saying there's not still problems to solve, because there are, but we liked that we could have these support heroes, these siege heroes, these commander heroes. I don't know what heroes are coming down the road that this will now enable, but it allows us to enable whole groups of heroes, and it gives us this ton of hero diversity, which we were really excited to have. It also allowed some weird things we didn't really anticipate, but we should have, I suppose, was you'd have scenarios where somebody would go, well, I'm gonna go help that guy in that lane. Well, I can just do that, because we got coverage on all the lanes right now, so we're earning as a team. I'm just gonna go help him. That's gonna be funny when I show up and start helping this guy out. And he was getting, absolutely smashed up there, and I'm gonna show up there. I'm gonna bail him out. Or you know what? I really want to go for that map objective. And before you start doing the calculation, you're like, okay, I'm gonna get this much experience for the objective, and I'm gonna lose this much experience, and I'm gonna be behind by this much, and can I make it up later? And right? It was all this math you were doing, because the objectives felt really meaningful, and we want you to go for them all the time. And so like, I can just go for the objective. We got coverage, I got the objective, and then you would go. And so it started to have this knock-on effect for us. So in terms of how you're gonna show off how awesome you are, you're gonna win with your team. If you wanna be the guy who's level 27 where your team is level 14, there are some other really cool games you can play. And I would suggest them, right? They're awesome. When we play in the studio, right, we're not match made. I suck, right? There's guys on the team that are way better than I am. I know who the good players are, right? I know very quickly. Yeah, their level's not higher than mine, but I can see their stats just as I can in Call of Duty, and I can go, oh, it's a lot of kills that guy's been part of. Oh, that's several solo takedowns he's had. I don't have any solo takedowns, right? And when I get a solo takedown, I'm like, ooh, I get a solo takedown, right? And I feel like a big shot, right? But so there's a scoreboard to know. We'll know who the good players are. There's no question, right? And if we feel like we don't want to do more with that, I think there's room for us to maneuver there. Like I would be interested in having somewhere stat on the score screen potentially. This is not a promise or anything, but this is something we've been discussing of having, how much experience points have you earned for the team? Right? And then I can look at it and go, oh, well, okay, look, I've earned 4. He's earned 4,000. I guess we know who's carrying us, right? And you get that sense. But there is at no point where you get a bunch of virtual skill relative to your own teammates. I mean, you can get situations where it's 4 levels difference between 2 teams, and this game's going to be over real quick, right? And that can happen. And then you see these, and we've had it come back the other way. We've had some games go 4 levels, and then they grab some map objectives, and the team 4 levels up gets a little sloppy, and they win a team fight, and now it's only 2 levels difference. Can they do it, right? But generally speaking, once it diverges. But you get, in some ways, it's also a higher skill experience, right? And one of our balance designers, Matt Cooper, who's probably one of the best guys of the game currently inside the studio, as you would hope as a balance designer, right? He says, like, look, I never get to a point where I can just relax. Like, I never get to a space where I can go, yep, now you're dead. He's like, no, I've been winning, but I got to keep focused. I got to keep on it, and I can't get sloppy. And if I get sloppy, I'm going to pay. And that's one of the other things that we felt like was kind of cool, especially for a 20-minute game, right? Which is one of our goals. Sorry, that was like a 4-hour answer for a 10-minute question.
No, great answer.
Yes, sir. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. You were next. I'm sorry. All right, we'll come back to you. 25 right now.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I was trying to explain the leveling system,
Right.
like on blog, and I had no idea what sometimes you get a skill, sometimes you gain a level, and you maybe get hidden stats.
I think it's an N key right now. I think if you hit N, we bring up the talent page, and it gives you a bunch of information. It's not very well exposed right now, so I accept your feedback. You had no idea, right?
Yeah, so,
and it gives you a roadmap of when things unlock and what's going on. You do get base stats as you go up, just period. But then as the talents come up at key levels, right, then you have to make a selection. What we're hoping to do with this system in the long run. What you've got right now is this kind of weird BlizzCon version of the experience. What we want to do initially is we're going to give you some really easy to understand talents in the tree, and not everything will be unlocked, right? So you might have 2 choices at the key levels. Actually, I could even imagine a scenario for really new users where we don't even worry about the talent system, and we're just going to give you the talents at the appropriate levels, no choices, right? But at some point throughout the progression system, you'll unlock either talents or more talents. And then what you'll have is a loadout. So you might have 9 or 10 talents available to you at level 1. Before the game launches, you're going to need to choose 3. Or actually, before you go into any game, right? So you're going to go and configure your hero. You're like, okay, I'm going to go play Sonya the Barbarian. What am I going to do? And what talents have I unlocked for Sonya? And I'm going to go, okay, I've got 10 talents at level 1. These 3 feel meaningful to me. And so you're going to load your choices, like you're building your deck, right? These are all my cards. These are the cards I'm going to take with me into battle, right, for Sonya. And then you're going to get into game, and you're going to go to level 1, and we're going to go, hey, these are the choices you said you wanted. Pick one, right? And then that will happen throughout the process, right? As you level through the game, you're going to get all the choices you've earned. So after you get out of a game, you might go, that deck didn't work for me, right? Like, I got to level, 10, and I got to choose my heroic ability, and that's not the one I wanted, right? I had 2 choices. This third or this 4th heroic ability, I want those swapped in instead, right? And then you'll swap them out. So at least that's our thinking right now, because one of the challenges we have is you've got a hero like Arthas, right? This is a hero that everybody has another idea for the powers he should have. And we need to have a limited number of things that are sort of possible for you as a player. And so we want to give you the potential to have a lot of stuff, but any one game, it's a little bit more narrow. Does that kind of explain how it works, or are you still confused? You're still making faces at me.
It does explain it, and at the same time, it's just like, so the talent system, as opposed to, say, like League of Legends, where you have a pre-mapped talents and then you level up skills. It's, no, you are stacking your deck, so when you get to the in-game decision, you have choices to make.
Right.
So I feel like you're choosing between different trees, essentially.
It's not trees. It's just each level has a series of choices, and they're unique to that level.
Those are individually.
Those are individual. You can't swap it around. Yeah, they're set choices. It's not a tree. It's not a tree. It's more like Kerrigan from Heart of the Swarm, if you played that.
So you make one unique decision, and that unique decision doesn't affect.
It doesn't change other ones. Right. It's not a tree. You don't have to figure out, I need to buy this one so I can get that one later, right? We didn't feel like that system was putting a lot of pressure on the individual choices. And so we've set it up so that you can make them independently at each tier, right? So you can say, look, I want to have, a health build for Stitches, I want to have an attack damage build for Stitches, I'm going to load up my talent tree with those choices. And then when I go live into the game, I'm going to decide, oh, who's my allies, who's my enemies, what map are we on? I'm going to go health. Oh, wait, this isn't working. Let's switch it up to attack damage, right, as I go forward through the tree.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Oh, do you want more?
Yeah, as a follow-up,
Yeah.
how is that going to happen or handle in the esports world
Oh.
where all of a sudden you have, like, a caster's like, I have no idea, like, this is Stitches, but it could be the health version, it could be the defense, like.
So there's things we can
So
do
much.
to surface it. We can also potentially for tournament play, we could ask for restrictions and say, look, you have to choose before you go in. Everybody has to know what those choices are. But again, we're not too worried about esports right now,
Okay.
right? We're really worried about making the game really fun. When I look at some of the kinds of things that go on in other games in the genre, they have all kinds of crazy stuff that happen before the game, right? That's not super apparent once you get into the game, right? So, I don't know, you come see our shoutcast today. Like, honestly, for us today in the shoutcast, there is so much action. I may die in the shoutcast today. There is so much action going on that those kinds of details, they're not super relevant, at least from my perspective today. Right?
No.
That may not be true in the long run, right? And I'd be open to that feedback, right? He's like, dude, that was important. You missed something. Like, okay, right? But from our perspective, in a 20-minute game with all the objectives going on, it's much more about team position, objective taking. But again, esports for us, if the community looks at this and goes, dude, it's not an esport. Okay, we'll accept that, right? We'll do everything we can to enable it. We'll do everything we can in terms of the gameplay, especially in terms of the tools that surround the experience, to make it esport ready, to make it esport possible. But
So that's something you guys are planning to do? I mean, you're gonna give us replays, you're gonna give us.
oh yeah, all of that stuff. It's built on the StarCraft technology.
StarCraft?
Yeah, it's built from the StarCraft. So everything we can get from StarCraft, we will absolutely bring over. And it goes back the other way too. Anything we end up developing for Heroes that StarCraft can make use of, it can go back. And that's one of the great things about having this platform is we can share our efforts across both. Yes, sir.
So this kind of relates to the previous question. What kind of ideas do you have for the battlegrounds to promote different decks, as you described it?
Right.
Like, are you designing battlegrounds with like new deck ideas in mind?
We're not that smart yet, but that's great. I totally agree that will probably come at some point. At this point, we're building the two systems kind of in parallel, and we're going to
Map
see.
that requires more hit points.
Yeah, or something, right? We're starting to see some crossover. We're starting to see, like, I really want to play ETC on, Cursed Hollow, because it's about these tributes spawning and a sudden influx of a warrior out of nowhere, because he can use a stage dive to leap anywhere on the map. Very, very powerful on the map, as compared to a map like Docks, where it's not as, or excuse me, that's our internal name for it. It's called Blackheart's Bay. On Blackheart's Bay, where it's just, it's useful, but it's not as mighty as it is. So we're seeing some of that now, and I don't really know where that's going. Like, that's a great question.
And just to a little tag on in there, could you do things like special skills that you unlock for a hero that apply specifically to a map, like instantly teleport to the mines?
Yes. Yes, you absolutely could, and we have that potential if we want to use that. We could say, look, we could have a talent page that's like, here's your talent page, here's your talent page for Blackheart's Bay. Awesome. What do you want to do with that? And that would be obviously a special circumstance, but it might be something we could do. And that's one of the things we love so much about the battlegrounds and the talent system as well, is we're trying to create systems that can develop. Right? I don't know where they're all going to go, but I see potential. So we can be in an environment a year from now where somebody says to us at BlizzCon, we're at BlizzCon 2014, and somebody says, I got a great idea for a battleground, and we go, that is a great idea.
Yeah.
We'll get on that.
I'll get back to you.
Right, and we can go back to the office, and we've got these amazing tools that have been developed for years for our community that allow us to be very agile in creating this stuff, and we can create a bunch of this stuff, and we can put it up, and we can say, you know what, Blackheart's Bay was cool. Its time has passed. Blackheart's Bay, sorry buddy, you're out, right? Anyone wants to play him, he's in custom game. Ladder is this, right? And we can sub something in. And so then we can interact with the community in a meaningful way. The community can say, we hate Cursed Hollow. We can go, fair enough. I kind of agree. It's gone, right? And that allows us to evolve the game over time. And talents can work the same way too. We can say, you know what? We want to give more options to Kerrigan. Here's some more talents for Kerrigan. We want to do something special for one of the battlegrounds. Everybody has some different options on this battleground, so you can choose some different talents. All totally legitimate choices that we can make. And if we can put it out there in front of the fans and say, look, that's what this game is about. This game is about multiple battlegrounds. We had this in StarCraft. I don't know if you guys remember this phase, but there was a phase very early on in StarCraft. I would say it was probably during the beta of Wings of Liberty, where the general tone, at least we got internally, I don't know if this was universal, but we'd heard this internally, was make Lost Temple and get lost.
Yeah.
All right?
Definitely.
I want Lost Temple, and then I want Blizzard, and go kill yourself. I want Lost Temple, and I don't need anything else from you. And that was kind of the tone.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay. And so we made Lost Temple, and we made a few other maps that were like Lost Temple, right? And we were kind of done. And now look at where we're at today. If we don't change the map pool every couple of months, the torches and pitchforks come out, and legitimately, right? Like I accept that. That's cool. Like, yeah, right. Where's our maps, right? You know, and you know, I'll get it from community guys will come in and they'll say, dude, they're mad about maps. I'm like, have we not released new maps? And like, no, we're a little late. Like, oh crud, right? Like this is a problem. And so we want to try to make it clear to all as we go into this game. Like this game is about multiple battlegrounds with multiple sets of rules, and we're going to change them over time. And we've seen the community kind of come with us and ultimately demand it on StarCraft. We made it a very healthy gameplay experience, a really fun gameplay experience. I don't know who. I haven't gotten you yet. Go.
So do you have an idea of like how big of a ladder pool you want to have when it's released in terms of like how many different battlegrounds there are?
No, I really don't. So we've been playing with 4, and it's starting to feel kind of fat to me as a player. Like it feels like, this feels pretty good. Like I'm a little uncertain every time I sit down to play, but I'm not totally confused yet. I was hoping initially for 8 to 10, kind of like a StarCraft map pool. That was kind of what was in the back of my mind.
That's a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like that was before we started doing the objectives like this, and now that we're doing the objectives, like, ooh, I think I'm changing my mind. Like I feel like maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 if there's some of them are similar. I'm feeling like we're pretty good, but I don't know for sure. We got to go to a beta and we got to see. Could we also do 8, but they're doubling up? So there's 2 maps with cursed coins? Maybe that might work. So I don't know yet. Like we'll have to wait and see. I'm certainly going to not put a ton of effort into more Battleground develop for the next couple of months. Right? We're going to really focus on new user experience, focus on getting all of our beta stuff ready to go, so we can get that out to everybody and kind of see how that goes. But it feels like it's kind of an okay place right now. But we'll have to kind of wait and see. Yes, sir. I haven't gotten you yet.
Do you feel like Heroes is going to be more appealing to pre-existing mobile players that
Right.
might not be satisfied with their other games they play? Or
Maybe.
do you think it might be like introducing MOBAs to people, or whether it's like Blizzard fans trying to get into MOBAs?
Right, because we have Diablo versus Rainer, right? It's a really interesting question. I know you guys think I'm retarded, that I don't have a really good answer for that. One of the things we do at Blizzard, which is a little different, is we don't focus externally very much. We play other people's games, no question, because we're all big dorks and we love playing games, but we tend to just focus on what does this game need and want to be. And there's a lot of questions like, well, who's your target audience? I got that yesterday in one of the panels. I'm like, I don't know. People who like Heroes of the Storm specifically, like that's, it is its own thing. And we have a lot of confidence that we'll find an audience, but who that audience is yet, I don't really know. So I'll tell you what we're gonna do, right? We're gonna try to make the game that we wanna make, we wanna play, that sort of matches the values we've set for it. We set the values for it being a team game. We've set the values at a 20-minute game. We've set some of these things, and we like those rules, so we're gonna stick to them. And who that will bring, I don't know. In terms of new users, we're gonna try to make the best new user experience we know how to make. Right? We're going to try to provide all the tutorials, all the ramping up into versus AI, all of those elements. Try to restrict your choices so it's really easy, push you towards the easier to play heroes, then slowly over time open up more and more heroes. Don't throw 37 million talents at you at the beginning, but by hour 200, 37 million talents, right? And try to ramp you through the experience. As much as I think World of Warcraft did an amazing job at this. I seriously knew soccer moms who had better gear than I did, and they're like, we got to go home and raiding with my son. I'm like, what in the world, right? And it is that game, but it's also, come on, WoW raiding is hardcore stuff. Soccer mom has no business doing that, but she's doing it because that WoW team took her for that ride. They took her from one ability, killing, a boar in Westfall or whatever, into the point where she's, punking down Onyxia, which is what I think it was at the time. And so we want to try to learn from what the WoW guys did. We want to try to provide that layered experience that starts with something very easy to understand and builds it up. Does that mean we'll get a bunch of new users? I hope so. But who are they? Are they guys who came over from some other game? Are they just Blizzard fans? I don't know. We'll make the best experience we can, and then we'll see what kind of audience it attracts.
Just relying on how good the game's going to be.
Yeah, and just hope that we do a good job. Hope the game is good enough to be worthy of some attention, and then we'll see what kind of attention we get. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
So we've seen this game for, right, several years.
Oh, yeah.
Now, so,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, can you talk a little bit about the evolution? And
Yeah.
when you finally found the voice and why you think it's closer to prime time than the other
Than ever
version.
before. Why this one's for real? And I'm not here in 2015 saying, well, in 2013.
With another name change.
Yeah, with the third or fourth name change. Oh, that would be so tragic. Oh, God.
Hearthstone.
Oh, God, you're killing me. Please, Jesus, no. All right, so yeah, we started in 2010, and the goal in 2010 was to make a map to show off what our tools were capable of. And I know it seems a little weird, but at the time, we were insecure about how the StarCraft tools would be received, and we wanted to make sure that everybody understood that these tools were powerful, and we wanted to try to, get the community sort of jump-started on it. And now looking back, it seems ridiculous, right? The community's done so many, amazing games inside that editor, done so much really cool stuff. We got Kickstarter programs over these games. Yeah, just amazing things, just great stuff, right? Just great stuff. So we were nervous at the time, and so we set out. We made a bunch of these maps. We made Iron Chef. We made Night to Die. We made Star Jeweled, which was a really good one. We made Blizzard Dota at the time, and it was I think it was all StarCraft characters. I don't think we had a single Warcraft character. If we did, we had one, and that's all it was going to be. And then, like I said, we got pretty geeked up by continuing to work on it. We had literally one guy at the time working on it. It was Matt Gocher. He's on our level design team for StarCraft, and he made this map for us. He did a really great job at it. And then he was transitioning over to Heart of the Swarm, and we gave it to Justin Klinchich, who has been our technical guy on it forever. And we had it again on one guy for probably 6 months, right? Just one guy work. And we would give input and help design heroes and stuff, but he was doing all the work. It was basically our mod maker, right? He was implementing the heroes. He was building the map, because we didn't have maps at the time, and he was doing everything. And then slowly over time, we started sort of piling people on it. And inside the studio, initially, it was like, we're just gonna release this map, right? And you're gonna put it out there, and it's gonna be cool. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And so nobody gave us any attention, nobody cared. It was just, yeah, do your map, it's awesome. And then at some point, it got sort of attention from other game directors and other people in the studio, like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is pretty good. Maybe you should make this part of Heart of the Swarm. That'd be good. Just put it in Heart of the Swarm and make it a feature of that game. And I don't know, is it really Dota? I'm like, no, it's not really Dota. You should call it something else, right? And so we talked about it. We think, we'll call it All Stars. It's got kind of a sporty feel to it, right? It's got kind of a light, kind of goofy tone to it. It kind of matches what we're doing, with the genre or with the fiction, really, because like I say, at some point, Diablo's going to be beaten up by a Murloc and he's going to die. And that makes no sense, right? So it's inherently comedic. There's nothing about it that can take itself seriously. It's inherently funny. The concept is ridiculous, right? So we called it Blizzard All-Stars for a long time. And then at one point, I remember I was in a design meeting with all the other game directors, and they're like, you need to make this its own game. I don't want to see this part of StarCraft anymore. Like, this game is too big. It can't be StarCraft footnote, Blizzard All-Stars. It's got to be this big thing. And at the time, I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. And I went back to Chris, the production director, and I said, okay, these guys say we should make it our own game. And I think they're right. I think we should. He's like, okay, no big deal. She was just like, I don't know why, we didn't see, the amount of work that would cause. I mean, this was probably 8 months or a year ago at this point, that we made this lighthearted, off-the-cuff kind of decision. Oh, yeah, we'll just split it, right? You just do that, right? You just take the code and you pick it up, copy paste, Control C, Control V, and you just move it over and it's good. And I remember there's this funny moment when the engineers were actually doing the split force one day, and they called it the Sundering, right? And they built it up. They had lore, they had a novel, it was the Sundering of 2013, right? This huge thing was gonna happen, and I'm watching this effort going, like, oh. Okay, I really should have checked with somebody before we did that, right? And they were doing all this work. It was like this week-long process, and the builds were a disaster, right? You go into the builds, and the art's all messed up because some of the art didn't survive the Sundering, right? This great moment. And so, and that's sort of how it evolved, right? And then we got to a point, I think it was this year, where some of the guys in the studio came and says, really, All-Stars? Blizzard All-Stars. You know what the acronym for that is, right? We're like, yeah. And they're like, balls. And we're like, yeah, that's good. Like, no, dude, no. It's not gonna work. We're like, okay. So we went through the whole process again, last minute, right before BlizzCon, the poor guys from Cinematics, like, do we have a logo? We need a logo, right? We're like, we're working on it, man, right? All the guys in marketing were showing us logos, and Sammy, the art director's like, no, right? So it was totally a fire drill, right? Trying to get it together, but it was just because we kept changing. It was how it was developed. It was developed in this very fun but pretty awkward way. It was developed in this kind of really this kind of amateur mod way is kind of how we ended up developing it, right?
Really cool. It seems like a really cool process.
No, it was cool and it was fun, but it doesn't look big studio, right? Like when you look at what are these guys doing? Like doing all this kind of random stuff, right? But it was very positive for the game. Like the game got to go through many years of development without really anybody worrying too much. Are we overspending? Is there a problem here? Because it was so small, and that was really just enabled by the StarCraft tools, right? Because we had the firepower that we've been building for StarCraft 2 for so many years, the same firepower that we gave, to the mod makers, to our community. And that really enabled us to have this lengthy, fairly safe, kind of fun development process. Yes, sir. Let's go.
So the game is free to play.
Yes, sir.
What sort of monetization have you guys thought about, and what sort of stuff are you putting in? Is it going to be a game where spending money gives you a competitive edge over other gamers?
God,
Or
I
is
hope
it
not.
A game where spending money gets you
I don't know.
cool pets like WoW?
Yeah, it's more along the lines of cool pets. I think we're definitely going to have. I don't know. I have like 1,000 spreadsheets at home. I will guess for you, and we just accept this as total guesses, right? That we may come back to you and say something different. But our initial thinking is right now is we do a rotation of heroes to give you a sampling of heroes, and we rotate them out weekly, monthly, whatever we think is appropriate. And then we give you an earned currency that you get in game, that you get bonus currency for playing with friends. And you spend that earned currency on more heroes, more skins. And that all the heroes are as equal as we can possibly make them. Some are definitely more skill-based, right, than others, but we make them as equal as we possibly can, so that you don't feel like you have to go buy that guy in order to win. Hopefully you might be interested in spending some of your earned currency on somebody new. We love what the Hearthstone quest system does, where they encourage you to play different stuff and say, hey, I'll give you some candy if you try something new. We feel like that's a very positive experience. I've certainly enjoyed it. I've built decks that I didn't, and then it ended up running with them for weeks because I was going to get 40 gold for playing the deck, and it wasn't that much, but it was still a good experience for me, right? And I was chasing the currency that way, and it felt great. So we like that. We like the idea of quests per hero. So I will get a hero for Arthas. I get a quest for Arthas, and if I complete those quests, I get something, and it could be long. It could be a lengthy, 40-hour, 50-hour, whatever you think it is, and you're going to give me some shiny skin at the end of that, some special mount, I don't know, something cool. So those are ideas that we have. Like I said, I literally have like 9 spreadsheets on my desk of ways to sort of organize it. Our values for it, I can give you our values specifically of things we don't want to violate, so you can call us out if we fail at these values. We don't want you to ever pay to win. We don't want to get into that scenario. We don't want it to feel like a casino, where we're pumping in oxygen and there's, you don't know what time it is, right? We want to make sure that you kind of always understand what you're getting into, and you always understand what's going on. You never feel like, are you going to ask for more later? Like, how much money is this game really? We want to be very upfront and go, this is how much it is. This, when you walk into McDonald's, it's like, this is how much it is. Like, oh, okay. You don't get to a scenario, where you're in McDonald's and then you go to the bathroom and it's like $50. Like, whoa, where'd that come from, right? And I feel like some free-to-play games fall into that trap where they kind of want to hide from you what the total cost is, right? And you don't really know. So we want to be very upfront about what everything is. When I think about all of the money I've spent on Magic the Gathering over the years, it's almost criminal. But I never felt cheated. I knew the rules. I understood what I'm getting. So we're going to give you a random pack of cards. It's going to have this many rares in it. This is what it's going to be. It may not be the rare you want, and it's going to cost you $3. Okay? I'm like, oh, okay. I get where you're going, and I'm in, right? And if I ever get frustrated, I'm like, you know what? You guys are crazy. I'm out. But I never felt like I was ripped off. Same thing happened to me when 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons came out, right? Like, I bought a lot of books. Like, I went and actually added it up. Like, oh my God, this is shameful, right? I haven't read all these books, right? Like, they're just on the wall, right? And when I look at it that way, I'm like, those guys. No, I knew what I was getting into with every purchase. And that's where we want to be in terms of our values. We want you to understand what you're getting into. We don't want you to feel like you're getting ripped off, or you're being cheated, or we're using our design powers to get you to get something like, oh, here's a hero, this one's better, it's a little more expensive. Like, that's really not where we want to be, right? We want to walk in and give you the menu and go, okay, these are the rules. If you don't like it, it's cool, there's the door. If you like it, stay with us, right? Sir.
So what that means, you can earn the in-game currency similar to the way you can with Hearthstone, but you'll also be able to just flat out buy the heroes?
Yeah,
to
totally.
use all the time?
Totally, absolutely. All right, yes, sir? Or was it, I was going this way, it was you, yeah, and then you, and then we'll go back there, okay. It's complicated.
So,
And back around. Okay.
It's good service.
Okay, we'll just go like this. Okay, I'm good. Go.
so I got a quick one.
Yeah.
So there's Heart of the Swarm, Heroes of the Storm, and Hearthstone. What is with HS, and what do you guys call this?
That
game?
actually came up. That came up because it's obviously HOTS, right? Like that's the thing for it. And it came up and like, really, we're gonna call it HOTS? Really? That's the solution. And we almost changed the name. It was almost I think Altar of Storms at one point, right, to kind of match the Warcraft 3 thing.
kinda like that.
Yeah, I don't just like that name because at least it wasn't. And Altar of Storms was AOS, which is Aeon of Strife, which was also a cool nod to our community. But it felt like it was a little too Warcraft, because it's just a Warcraft building specifically, and the game is Diablo and StarCraft, and anything else that comes up, and it'd be Lost Vikings, as well. And so, yeah, totally, right?
I was gonna ask that later.
No, I have paper designs for the Lost Vikings, right?
Can they actually be 8-bit?
Oh, that would be cool. No, I think there's an urge from the artist to do like some 8-bit skins as well.
racing.
Yeah, totally.
racing.
Yeah, that would be so awesome. No, Sammy wants a rock and roll racing character. That's totally gonna happen. Where were we? Anyway, the name. So so I don't know, dude. Like, yeah, it's HOTS. I'm sorry. It's totally HOTS.
So the second part of my question was relating to the monetization. Do you have some kind of schedule or idea in your time for a time frame how often heroes are added?
No, but we're working towards being nimble enough to add them frequently. So the Team 2 guys have grown and evolved over the years into a team that can drop content, pretty significant content, fairly regularly. Not as regularly as our community would always want, but they're pretty good at a clip, right? And bringing out new zones and new raids and new dungeons. Team 1 needs to gather and gain that experience and gain that production knowledge as to how to function in that way. And so we're doing that now throughout our alpha phases and into our beta as well. You're going to see us practicing as okay, here's a hero. And we're going to assess what feels good, but also what can we do and at what speed. And you're going to see us trying to be smarter about that as we go forward. So we're going to practice throughout the beta so we can get to a place where we can be kind of Johnny on the spot with new stuff to keep the game fresh. I think the WoW guys have sort of shown us the value of that. And we're going to be going to them for sort of the lessons and learnings for how to get that done. Okay, we're going this way. Yes, sir.
You mentioned a couple of the game values, and I'm assuming those game values aren't going to change.
Probably not. I mean, they could. We're flexible, but we've been with these for a long time.
So I want to know, are there other game values that you haven't mentioned that we should know about and we should look for?
I should have these memorized.
In HOTS?
The other designers make so much fun of me for not knowing this. The biggest one it was absolutely teamwork. That was the biggest one we wanted to do. Short games was always a big value for us. Being true to these heroes was a big value for us. Those are the big ones. Those are the core things that we're really focused on. Everything else is flexible within those. And trying to make sure that you get together and you feel like, other ones would be, but they're simpler. One would be, want to make you feel powerful, right? Want to make all of your abilities feel sharp. Simplicity was a value. If the tooltip gets longer than, I don't know, X, like, dude, you're failing. Like, that's not an okay tooltip, right? If the tooltip is a paragraph, something's gone horribly wrong, right? It's more of an implementation value. But we want to try to keep things very simple. Like, I've got a hammer, I stun people with it. Okay, cool, right? I've got a hammer and it bounces and it stuns, but the third guy wow, you've lost it, right? But that's generally Blizzard. That's not just heroes, right? We'll aggro on that stuff. When we do it in StarCraft, we'll put in a new unit. We'll go, what? I need to read what to understand this guy? Okay, I'll fix it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's sort of core to what we're doing. Yeah, I think those are the big ones, though. These are the ones that really matter. Yes, sir. Somebody back there. Yes.
Talking about the monetization,
Uh-huh.
are you guys considering doing the Marvel Heroes approach, where with their founders pack of buying everything outright whenever the game or before the game even comes out?
Maybe. I don't know. Like, we haven't gotten that far, right? Like, that's sort of like a special offer in that sense, right? Like, before the game launches, you can do something. It could happen. I'll take it as a suggestion, but we don't have any specific plans. Okay, I'm circling around. Yes.
It's my turn.
Okay.
I have a very simple question. Are you guys going to make any bigger maps? It seems like the 4 you have out on the floor are all, I think, small or smaller for the policy editor.
Maybe. I don't know how they rate relative to the size of what we can and can't accomplish. Our map sizes have fluctuated over the years. We've had both very big maps and some insanely small maps. These maps are mid-sized compared to where they were 6 months ago. They're like these little closets we were fighting. It's just like these little knife fights in closets. Fuck! And you were just fighting everybody around you all the time. It was But yeah, no, totally. And that's the flexibility, right?
I mean, that would help. It would help show off mounts. I mean, it seems like right now, there are some good uses, you know.
Okay, I'll take that as feedback. That could very well be the case, you know, and that's, we absolutely have that flexibility, you know, and we can evolve that going forward. You know, if we go out, you know, in beta and everybody's like, wow, bigger, come on, right? And they give us that feedback, we can go, okay, right? And we can totally test that and get that in really quick. I think you'll probably see that. Certainly happened in StarCraft over the years. We've evolved all kinds of map sizes. Now we're hearing complaints, too big, come back, right? But I agree, the map size completely changes the flow of the game. And I'd be interested, actually, now that you bring that up, and going back and looking and seeing how consistent we are being with map sizes, because if they're all about the same size, that you could be right. That would be a really interesting test to go, let's do one really big. Because that would create that variation, right? That would create that uncertainty and experience, like, whoa, this is the big map. This changes how I play, right? Which is what we're really going for. That's a cool idea, Mike. Yes, sir.
How is sort of splitting the sunring, right?
The sunring.
How has that affected, and this might be a little bit off topic, how has that affected StarCraft's progression? And have you guys ramped up the team size, or did you literally?
No, the
just
team
like-
size has ramped up substantially to deal with both games happening at once.
You guys aren't even in building one anymore, are you? Or the?
Wow, this is like some ninja, like, you got the goggles out, like Area 51 now, you're checking out which building we're in. We did move across the quad there to a new building. I don't remember, is it building 3? I don't know which one, I don't know the numbers.
Is it the one with the secret stuff in it? Diablo?
They all have secret stuff in them.
Diablo has secret stuff.
You're making me nervous now. I'm afraid there's snipers on the roof across the street now. Yeah, we did move across the building. We've grown the team substantially in order to deal with this. One of the challenges of StarCraft specifically is story development. And one of the things that we've had a chance to do on Void is really develop that story before we go totally nuts on mission design. So we actually started before Heart of the Storm shipped. We're in a pretty good spot right now, and what they're trying to do now is match the missions to the story, make sure the mechanics feel good, and they're really dealing with the game mechanics of the Protoss. What are the special, campaign mechanics you want to have? Because what they had initially, they had a bunch of heroes actually in the game, which was pretty cool. They had all these Protoss heroes running around, because the Protoss are the space samurai. They are the paladins of the StarCraft universe, and they are about these heroes. But it was starting to feel very much like I have all these little mini Kerrigans. It's like Kerrigan, but worse. It was kind of how they felt, right? We were playing through. And so they've been working on some other mechanics for them. You really want to make the Protoss feel like it's the end times. Darkness is closing around. The Protoss are dealing with problems the other races don't even comprehend. They're dealing with ancient prophecies and Xel'Naga, and they're dealing with Amon, and everybody else is small fry compared to what the Protoss have to deal with. And their time is coming. They may be wiped out. A handful of heroes are holding out against the darkness here. Oh, and if you really bother them, they'll glass your planet, right? They're the Protoss, right? They have access to technology and firepower the other races can only dream of, right? And we really want to get that feeling, right? That feeling of technological authority into the Protoss that the Terrans don't have. And I felt like we did a really good job with Heart of the Swarm in terms of mutating your swarm, some really weird stuff you can do, and then Kerrigan sometimes being 40 to 50% of the firepower of your group, right? I mean, there were moments in Swarm, if you build Kerrigan in a certain way, you could be like, yeah, guard the base, guys. And Kerrigan could go out and just do her thing, and that's appropriate for the Queen Goddess of the Zerg. That feels fantastic, right? But I don't know if that's Zeratul. Zeratul might go up and kill the commander and sneak off, but that would be what he could accomplish. He's not going to leap into a base and just ninja, 50,000 Terrans. That's not. But Kerrigan might. That might be what she does. And so we're trying to make sure that the fantasies between all three of these races feel very different, and that's what the team is really focused on right now. But it's coming along really well, and they're doing a great job.
It felt like at this BlizzCon there wasn't a whole lot out of StarCraft.
No, they're working on it. They're working on it.
I looked at that and I was like, oh, did they just
No,
the whole team?
no, don't read into it. We got a bunch of guys that are doing great work there. They're pounding away on that campaign. David and his design group are working very hard on the multiplayer. It's a very challenging problem for those guys. I've multiple times seen pitches from them like, how we got this thing? I'm like, it's a Protoss Banshee. I'm like, fuck, okay, right? It's not exactly a Protoss Banshee, but it is, right? It's too close. And so, they're working very hard to try to create some new gameplay there without stepping on what we've done before. I don't know if they're going to have the same size of expansion that we had for Swarm. We may have fewer units. We only do one new unit per race and a bunch of changes to stuff that doesn't work. But we'll see. We'll see what they get, and they're working really hard on it.